This is Allie with the Perception Trainers, author of Perception Diet, and today we are going to finally cover what the deal with conscious co-creation and manifestation is. So if you have not already watched part 1 of this, please go back and do that, otherwise this is not going to make any sense, okay? So go do that, link down below, come back here. So now you understand that the energy that is being exerted upon creation from the void space is the information about life that we need in order to live life. Okay, and then you understand that the lower amount of energy you are taking in, so if you are in a state of fear, if you are in a state of resistance to your life, you are going to be taking in less energy, right? Because we understand that's what resistance is. Like in electricity, if there's a wire that has resistance, it is a poor conductor. It is taking less energy through the wire, and therefore the light that it powers will be dim, right? Whereas the more energy, the less resistance that wire has, the brighter that light bulb will shine. And it is the same with humans. It is the same with our consciousness. The more you are in a state of resistance, this is literally what it means. You are taking in less of that energy, less information. You will have less understanding of life and how life works, and thus you will create more chaos than order. Okay? So most people who are in a state of fear, I encourage you to, probably it's easier to look at other people with this than to self-reflect, but if we look at people who are in a state of fear, generally what we see is they kind of ping pong between two states. Okay, so someone who, say, has trouble with their weight, right? And they're in this state of fear about their weight. Or they're in this state of fear and it's manifesting on a physical level as disorder in their physical body. Because remembering, right, that everything in the physical level is just a manifestation of what's going on these higher energetic levels. So someone who's in a state of fear and it's showing up in their body, they're going to be ping-ponging between, I just want to eat donuts and things that don't necessarily make me feel good, that don't actually support my health, that genuinely feel self-destructive. But I want to do these things, and I like doing these things, and so I'm just going to let myself do these things and kind of reap the negative rewards of that. Or they're restricting themselves, trying to get themselves to eat healthy and do the right thing, but it feels shitty to do that as well because they feel like they're sacrificing something, right? So they tend to just kind of ping pong between these two different states and never be able to really get to a place where, this third option, which would be, I genuinely desire to eat the foods that nourish and support me, right? The foods that I eat, the foods that I crave, and the foods that I love, and the foods that make me feel my best inside my body and create health are all the same foods, right? So there's no internal conflict going on. I'm not ping-ponging between these two states, right? I'm in this third place where I'm not in either of these two states, right? People with money issues, same deal. They tend to be ping-ponging between two different states, right? People with relationship issues tend to ping-pong between two different states. And that is a symptom of living your life in fear. Because understanding that when you live your life in fear, you have less information, so less complexity, less order, more chaos. So when we live in a state of resistance to the universe, we tend to get stuck in a cycle where we go between two states over and over and over again. We have these patterns, this crazy 8 pattern, right? Of a manic high and a manic low, manic high, manic low, manic high, manic low. Things go really well, things go really terrible, things go really well, things go really terrible. I'm on track, I'm off track, I'm on track, I'm off track. But you're never actually making a movement to a different state of reality, right? So we trick ourselves into thinking we're making progress every single time we get back on the diet. Every single time we lose the 20 pounds we just gained, every single time we save some money, even though, that sort of moved us out of debt, we think we're moving in the right direction, right? We trick ourselves into thinking we're making progress when really we're just doing the same thing over and over and over again because we're rearranging the 4 sticks that we have into different shapes, but we're not actually creating a new shape, right? Because that would require more information, more energy, more structure. So now understand that the way that we perceive our reality is wrong for most of us, right? Most of us generally look out at the reality and say, the things that I see are creating my thoughts, which create how I feel, and so this whole physical reality is the cause of how I feel and how I think. So if I could just change the physical reality, right, I would feel better. I would feel different. So that is incorrect, because now we understand, right, from our last lecture, that it's void that creates sound and light, that then creates feeling, thought, then emotion. So every level of density we move down is just a reflection of the higher levels. So it's always energy first. The amount of energy that is flowing through something will create the feeling. Okay, understand this. Energy, the amount of energy that is flowing through something, creates the feeling that we feel, right? The feeling of vibration. Yeah? That creates the thought patterns, because that's this next level of density that creates the physical world. Okay? So, and then just a little caveat here, understanding too that the way that you think is creating your perception of the 3D reality. Okay, so not necessarily like you think of a plane crash and the plane crashes, right? But if you're thinking about a plane crash, you're gonna feel, right, and feel like that plane is crashing, right? You're gonna be having the physical, the emotional reaction of the plane crashing, and that's going to be creating a physical response inside of your body as though the plane is actually crashing, right? We know this. When we're in a state of stress and we think we almost get into a car accident, we have the same adrenaline response to an almost car accident that we would have to an actual car accident. So remember, it's not your thoughts that are creating the actual circumstance. It's your thoughts that are creating your physical experience of the circumstance. So that is very important to understand. It is your energetic level that creates how you feel, that creates your thoughts, that determines your perception of your physical experience. Okay? So again, someone who's in a high frequency, someone who has high amounts of energy moving through their body, they are in a high emotional state, like an emotional state more in alignment with love, is going to have a different thought pattern than someone who's in a low vibrational state, low amount of energy, low amount of, so a lower emotional state, and therefore they're going to have different thoughts, different perception of the same reality. So the monk who's in a high state of love, who almost gets in a car accident, does not have the same thought pattern and does not have the same physical experience of almost getting in a car accident than the person who's already in a state of fear. Okay, so the person that is already in a state of fear is going to freak out. Their body is going to have the stress response as though they actually got into the car accident, and it's going to be this stressful, horrible thing that makes them resist life even more. The monk who's in a state of love, right, the person who's in a state of love almost gets in a car accident, their perception of it is going to be like, whoo, wow, life is amazing. I totally didn't get in that car accident, and their physical experience, their perception of their physical experience is going to be completely different. All right? So understand that. It is not your thoughts that's creating the actual physical reality. It's your thoughts that are creating your perception of the physical reality. And that thought pattern comes from how you feel, which comes from how much energy is pumping through your being. Okay? So when we start to look at co-creation, think of it like this. If you have not already watched my Emotional Mastery series, please go and do that, because now you understand. Here, I'm going to lay this out for you. When you have original trauma, which is what I talked about in all those videos. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, go watch those videos. I'm not going to re-explain it here. We all have an original trauma where we literally snapped into this belief snapped into this thought pattern, snapped into this energetic pattern that said life can be wrong, that something can go wrong. Life can be not right. I'm not right. I did something wrong. Love can go away. Okay, what happened in that moment is we literally, without knowing it, obviously, because we were all young children when this happened, without knowing it, we cut ourselves off from the life force energy that was flowing through our entire being. Okay? So a baby is not having internal struggle with themselves. Right? They are not wondering if they are good or bad, wondering if they're right or wrong, wondering if they should do this or that, because they are in a state of love. They are in a state where they are so close to have just coming from the source of energy that they're allowing all that energy to flow through them. Right? When the initial trauma happens, you shut off a part of yourself from life force energy. That is the trauma. When we reject a part of ourselves because we think that that is what is causing love to go away, what actually happened is we felt like the source of love was our parents. We had this misunderstanding that the source of love was our parents or the people around us. And when they rejected us, what really happened is we rejected ourselves. So then there became a part of our being that used to be getting life force energy, that was just a part of who we were, how we are, natural, perfect. If we lived in a perfect world where everyone knew that everyone is exactly how they're supposed to be, that there's no good or bad, that there's no right or wrong, that it's just how we're meant to be, these traumas would not happen. We would all be in a state where we are fully at one with reality, fully at one with what's happening to us, and there would be no resistance to this life force energy, no resistance to the energy, and therefore we would be continuing to evolve our consciousness as we grew as human beings, right? This is what would happen. We would be in a constant state of evolution. But what happens is that we all come to a place where we decide, this is not good about me. I'm not allowed to be like that. This is wrong, this is bad, due to social conditioning, which then cuts off a piece of yourself from that life force energy. And what we know now is that because you are a complex being that is wanting to evolve, so understand this, the next thing you need to understand about life is that life is always striving to evolve. It's striving to become more complex, it's striving to become more ordered, it's striving to be able to contain all of the information from the void space. So remember, there's way more void space than there is physical matter. So there's more non-existence, more information than there is physical matter to actually hold that information. So physical matter is literally trying to evolve itself to be able to contain more and more and more of this information so that life can fully understand itself. Yeah? So your being is wanting to evolve. The cells that make up your body from the earth are on an evolutionary path. Everything that has consciousness in the universe, because it is conscious, right? Because it exists, it has consciousness, it is part of the evolution. And so if you are not a part of the evolution, if you are not moving in the direction of taking in more energy, more information, becoming more complex and more ordered, you are de-evolving, and literally the earth will take your cells back. This is where all self-destructive behavior comes from. We cut off a part of ourselves from life force energy by rejecting it and saying it's wrong, so we're in resistance to it now. So we're in resistance to a part of ourselves, which essentially just says we're cutting it off from life force energy. It devolves. It descends into chaos. That is what happens. That part of you that no longer is getting life force energy can no longer operate at the complexity that it's supposed to because it's getting less energy, and therefore it devolves into something self-destructive. Because if it's not going to evolve, it's going to devolve so that it can be recycled and get back on the evolutionary cycle, right? So we understand this in biology. When a cell is in a state of fear for too long, right? So in a state where it is cut off itself from the life force energy, it will activate an autophagy state, which is self-destructive. It will destroy itself, knowing that it will then be reabsorbed back into the fabric of life, back into the fabric of the universe, back into the fabric of the earth, to be re-energized back to an original place so that I can continue on with this evolutionary cycle. So if you're not evolving, if you're not taking in more information, you're devolving, okay? So when we get in resistance to our life, when we get in resistance to ourselves, we are in a state of devolution, and therefore we are stuck where we are. We cannot change our circumstance. We cannot change our reality. We cannot change our experience of our reality if we are in a state of fear. So if there's any part of you that believes that any part of your life is wrong and bad, know that this is a sign that you are in resistance and you are going to continue to have the same emotional experience. Okay, so you may be able to change your circumstance, you may be able to maybe change your thoughts and but you're going to continue to have the same emotional experience of these going back and forth between these two states of awareness, right? Because you are not taking in more energy that would be required to shift you to a whole new different state, okay? So when someone who is in a state of fear starts to love and accept these parts of themselves that they have rejected, so literally, you bring your self-destructive behavior into the light and you say, you are a piece of my divinity. You are a piece of my perfection. You don't need healing. You don't need fixing. You don't need any of that. You just need the life force energy to be available to you again via my acceptance of you, my complete and full acceptance of exactly how you are right here, right now. Even if you never change, you're perfect. What will happen is you will either realize that that part of yourself was always perfect and that you were just judging it as wrong and bad, and then the cognitive dissonance that you have about that part of yourself goes away and you can live in peace with that and start to express it, or that part of yourself that was rejected will transmute itself into a more complex structure that allows you to move from one of these two states to this third awesome state. You will evolve. You will see what happened to you in a completely different light. You will understand that everything that happened to you for a reason to evolve your consciousness. So that's the next thing to understand. Your entire life is your curriculum. Every single thing that's ever happened to you to evolve your consciousness. The whole point of it, the whole point of anything that ever happens to you is to give you more information so that you can evolve your consciousness, evolve your being, take in more energy, become more complex, more structured, more ordered. When you are in a state of resistance, you are pushing that information away and you cannot move on to the next experience. So even if you can change your circumstance, even if you can change your thoughts, even if you can change your boyfriend, change your body, you're still going to feel the same way and you're still going to mostly be having the same experiences because you don't have more information, you don't have more understanding, and therefore you are still in a state of confusion. So if we look at religion, right? Religion is based on a system of fear, right? It's based on a system of the powers that be wanted to have control because they were in a state of fear. So they create religion which disempowers people and tells them there's a good and a bad, right and a wrong, yes and no. It's very simple, right? It's very simple, it's not complex. And it creates chaos in the world, right? So we may think it's creating order, but it's not creating order, it's creating chaos. Same thing inside of ourselves. Any part of yourself that you're rejecting, you are cutting off from life force energy, which then must create chaos. Because in order to be the complex being that you are supposed to be evolving. You are supposed to be increasing your frequency. You are supposed to be increasing the amount of energy that you can take in. And so when you start to do this emotional healing work, that you start to accept these parts of yourself and therefore complete with the life that you have had, right? You won't be caught up trying to manifest a whole bunch of different stuff, right? The more you come into understanding, the less you will want to manifest or co-create a different reality, because the more in alignment you will be with the fact that this reality is exactly what's supposed to be happening. Your perception of your life will be that it is perfect. So you will actually have more choice, more freedom, and you will have less desire to change what's happening to you, and more desire to just go with the flow because you will understand, and you will become greater and greater and greater in your understanding. So, drop the resistance. Stop resisting your life. Let it give you the information it's supposed to give you. Accept the circumstances that you're in fully and understand that by accepting that, you actually will learn, and then you can move on to the next step. Okay? Mwah.